Hi Line Sniper community, this is Daniel Chiang here, CEO and founder of Line Sniper, and today I'm going to be walking you through a few things on the NBA slates, 2 or 3 of the most important games, and how you can use betting tools, analytics, and real information to start helping you profit today. Alright, so let's get right into it. Here's the Line Sniper website as we chatted about yesterday. There's a ton of information on the site, but what's going to be most relevant in today's videos is the betting tools and analytics for helping you handicap some of the games. Alright, so let's look at the first game that's the most important game of the day, the Miami Heat versus Boston Celtics game. If you look at the NBA standings really quickly, and the playoffs for 2021, you'll see that the Boston Celtics and the Heat are locked in the 6-7 place. The Celtics are 2 games back, and this is a deciding tiebreaker game between the Heat and Celtics to see who is going to have the tiebreaker in case they tie, and ultimately who's going to end in the play-in game for the NBA playoffs 2021. As we noted yesterday, Jaylen Brown just got announced out with a wrist injury, so he's going to be out for the season, a big blow to the Celtics. So we're going to see a pretty big line movement for the day. But let's just take a quick look at kind of what our numbers are saying versus what the sportsbooks are saying, and if there's an opportunity to bet it. Just for people who aren't familiar with our site and our information, if you want to check the information for the website, simply log into your Line Sniper Plus account and hit either the pre-game button on the homepage to see the game in the scoreboard, where you'll get a summary of the most important information for the game, as well as some team and player projections for some of the general league-wide statistics. Second off, if you want a more detailed summary of the game, you can simply go to the betting tool section, NBA, and then click the game that you want to take a look at. In this case, it'd be Miami versus Boston. Here we give you projections for every quarter of each team. So we think that there's going to be approximately, on average, 28 points in the first quarter for Miami, as well as the team totals and ultimately the lines for both teams. So let's take a look at kind of what the sportsbooks are saying and ultimately how we are handicapping the game against what the sportsbooks are saying. So let's take a look at the first game. There's going to be a variety of sportsbooks that you could possibly use, particularly within the United States. But for the purposes, we're going to be using only legal sportsbooks within New Jersey or any of the regulated states. So if you go to NBA on DraftKings and just look at the games today, Miami Heat are going to be 1.5 point favorites over the Boston Celtics. If we're looking here, we're going to see on FanDuel, they're going to be 2 point favorites over the Boston Celtics. So if you want to bet the Celtics, bet them at FanDuel. If you want to bet the Miami Heat, bet them at DraftKings. And then just taking a look at a third sportsbook, BetMGM, very quickly, we're going to see their site's loading a little bit slowly. So when it comes up, I'll pull that up. But all right, so what do we have for this game? We have Miami as a 3 point favorite over Boston. A 3 point favorite here, and the Vegas home spread is 1.5. Or if you look at FanDuel, it'd be actually 2 point favorites. So let's take a quick look. So if we're going to bet Miami Heat, we're going to bet them at DraftKings at 1.5 minus 108. You'll get a few cents of value relative to FanDuel at that point. 3 points relative to the 1.5. So that means we have a small lean towards the Heat. Once again, we typically recommend a 2.5 to 3 point difference, but sometimes our data analysts will have a specific feeling on a game or a specific analytics-backed approach where they're identifying certain stats that aren't included in this game projection, and that's why they tend to lean the Heat in this game. Now, if we look at the point total for the game, we're projecting out 219 total points for the game. If you look at the sports books, they're projecting out 224.5. If we look at FanDuel very quickly, 225. So let's bet the under at FanDuel versus DraftKings. And that's going to give us a pretty sizable lean towards the under. So for us specifically, we'd play the under larger than the lean towards the Heat, and that would be our best play for the game. Now, let's take a look at some of the player projections for the game if they're out on either of the sites and see if there's any useful information for player projections that we might think are good opportunities to bet for the game. Oftentimes, player projections are going to be a better place for you to profit relative to the game size and totals because they're going to be typically much more inefficient. Unfortunately, at this early point in the game, you can see both DraftKings and also, we'll take a look at FanDuel, don't have player projections out right now. DraftKings doesn't, Let's take a quick look. Okay, FanDuel does have some player projections out, so we'll use FanDuel as our point of reference. So let's take a look at the most exciting players. Jason Tatum to start off with, over 28.5 points. If you look at our pregame page, you can see Jason Tatum, we're projecting 24 points. So in this situation, we play the under Jason Tatum points. Let's look at Kemba Walker, 19.5 points. If we look at our player projections, Kemba Walker, 17 points, within the realm, so we probably pass that. Let's see if there's any other statistics we can look at very quickly. They only have points, but often later in the game, they'll release rebounds and also assists. So keep an eye out for that, definitely going into the rest of the day. All right, so let's just take a quick look at a couple other games that are exciting for today. If you want to see also the player projection specifically in this view versus a pregame view as shown here, you can simply choose a team that you're looking for. In this case, as we're saying, we'd say Boston, and we choose Kemba Walker, for example. You get all his stats. It goes minutes, points, field goal attempts, field goals made, three-point attempts, three-pointers made, turnovers, rebounds, blocks, steals, free throws, and assists. So you get the full gambit of box score projections for each of the players using our projections. All right, so that gives you a good understanding of the Boston-Miami game. Let's just take a quick look at one more game that's exciting. Let's say the Los Angeles Lakers versus New York Knicks game, and see kind of what the sportsbooks are offering, what we're suggesting, and ultimately if there's any plays that you could use to profit today. All right, so going to this game, we see Lakers 2-point favorites against the Knicks. I think the injury report is that LeBron James is not playing for this game. Once again, not, but I think might be questionable. Let's just take a look at, RotoWire or something for NBA player injuries and see if there's any news on LeBron James. As we can see, NBA lineups, and going to the very bottom, LeBron James is, I guess, out for this game, so we have no expectation that LeBron should be playing for this game, which I think is a reason why the Lakers aren't larger favorites for this game. All right, so here we go. Lakers versus Knicks, 4.5, 213.5 here. If we take a look at FanDuel very quickly, we have 4.5, 214. So if you're betting the under, bet at FanDuel, you get half a point of value. The spread is going to be largely similar. If we take a quick look at the money line quickly, 158, 190, 160, 195, very similar. Knicks are slightly better, if you're going to bet the Lakers, slightly better at FanDuel. But, pretty big juice on both sides of these bets, as you can see between the spread. So it's tough to make a real money line bet for this game, given how wide the projections are. All right, so let's look at what Line Sniper is suggesting for this Lakers-Knicks game. Just going at Lakers, Knicks, game suggestion, lean Knicks, lean under. Same here, obviously. And the total points for the game, 210 versus 213.5, which is where you're getting the lean to the under. And also a home line of -2 versus 4.5, so that's why we're leaning the Knicks. Once again, you can look at the player projections for this game, but just given the fact that it's quite early in the day, our suspicion is that there won't be much information with regards to player props offered at either of the sports books. I would check later in the day if you want anything to do with player projections. All right, so that's 2 games on the docket that I went through today. Hopefully that gives you a good understanding of how we at Line Sniper will bet those games with the Line Sniper tools and analytics. More importantly, I want to talk about one new feature that we just released yesterday that could help with a specific type of bet, which is your futures betting. So let's just take NBA, for example. We're looking at the NBA playoff projections. And here you'll see we give some projections on what the percentage of each of the teams making the playoffs is, making the finals, the championships, etc., using this season playoff statistics. Now, how would you compare this to what your sportsbook is offering, for example? Here we're seeing that we think that the Milwaukee Bucks, for example, have a 0.15 chance to win the championship, or 15% chance. Now, what does 15% equate to in terms of odds? So if we just go to any sort of odds converter on the website, on any website, for example, and you can find this pretty much anywhere, you can just put 15% and you'd see the American odds is 567. So we think the fair odds of the Milwaukee Bucks winning the championship is about 6 to 1, 567 in American odds. Now let's see what the sportsbooks are offering. To win the championship, Milwaukee Bucks plus 750. So in that situation, there'd be small value on the Milwaukee Bucks, and if you want to bet the championship, we'd say the Bucks are a pretty decent bet, just given what their in-season statistics are, as well as the odds they're offering. We have this for every team for each of the conferences, as well as for each of the different sports. So for example, if you go to MLB and you want to look at the MLB playoff projections, we have the same thing attached here, as well as for NHL. And this will give you a real leg up on if you're trying to make futures bets, and ultimately just comparing the percentage to win each of the playoffs, division, Stanley Cups against what your futures books are offering is a great way to see if there's any value in the futures market. So once again, this is Daniel Chiang from Line Sniper. We went through 2 games today. We went through the Lakers-New York game, where we're leaning the Knicks and leaning the under. And we also went through the Boston-Miami game, which has huge playoff implications, where we're leaning the Heat and leaning the under. As we can see, there's also some futures bets that you can put in, and with that information, we hope that you can profit on those 2 games. And if you'd like to see the rest of the information on linesniper.com, simply click on the links, get a Line Sniper Plus subscription, and you can get that same information and analytics for each of the games. Our information, as you can see here, is built by PhD data scientists who have spent countless hours building these models, and what we've personally used to bet millions of dollars at the sportsbooks ourselves. So hopefully that gives you a good analysis of today's game, and we'll be coming to you later with a video of how to make sure you're profiting against the sportsbooks and what are the best metrics and tracking methods to figure out, are you a profitable sports bettor or not? Hint, hint, it's not just P&L. So stay tuned for our next video, and thanks a lot for watching, and here's to making profitable bets on May 11th, 2021. Thanks a lot, guys, appreciate it.